everybody to Survive and Advance on the Gruely True Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care, the future of sports medicine. To find out more about Replenishing Care and all their products, go to thegruelytruth.net. Click on their banner at the top of the page. That'll take you there. I am your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
It's a Monday after the NFL and a World Series game last night. World Series is over and done with. Finally, we got baseball out of the way.
Yeah, thank God.
So it's a good start to the week. I tend to agree with you. It's a good start to the week.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Every game lasts 4 hours or sometimes 7.5 hours, which, I mean, my problem was my team had a game the next day. I had to get up at like 10 in the morning, and it gets to be like 3:30, and I'm like, well, this could go on all night, so I'm going to go to bed. And I wake up the next day and find out like 2 batters later the guy hit the walk-off home run. And
home run.
I still don't feel bad that I missed it. But by no means am I saying I watched 7.5 hours of that game. I turned it on at like 2:30, and I figured, well, I'll just watch this because there's nothing else on.
Well, I watched the game, the 7.5 hours of the game, but I watched 2 episodes of Keeping Up with the Kardashians in between that, too.
Dude, you could have watched Roots, the miniseries, and then
I
still caught the end of that.
I don't know how. Baseball has got to be the most boring sport in the world to watch. I haven't. That's the first World Series only because the Dodgers were playing and we're out here in L.A. and yeah, so I took a heart to watch it, and I'm like, God, this is the first World Series I'd watched in years, and it'll be the last I watch in years. It's just baseball. Just I get people love it, and we're probably pissing some people off right now that listen to us because they love baseball, but need a little more fast pace.
Yeah, Ken Burns' 9-part baseball documentary was slightly longer than that game, which is no problem. I mean, because that happens. It's not baseball's fault. And I'm sure that if you're a Dodger or a Red Sox fan, it's exciting. And actually, it piqued my interest enough to actually watch a little bit of the game. So I'm not really knocking that. My biggest problem is the normal game is still not getting over till midnight at least. And the thing that blows my mind is the same thing with Monday night and Sunday night football, where they'll schedule the news for right at 11 o'clock, and you know it's not going to be on at 11 o'clock or 8 o'clock.
Oh, here's a family thing we do. All right, my wife and my son and I, every night, we take Jeopardy, okay? And we like to test our intellect occasionally, so we take Jeopardy every time.
We know your wife kicks your ass when it comes to intellect.
Yeah, she knows everything in the world there is to know about the Queen of England. All right, you can date back to 500 A.D., and if it's something to do with the King and Queen of England, she's got that answer down. We don't even challenge her anymore. We just let her have it. You know, but she makes me pause it because here's what happens. You know, like people in Jeopardy, they get like 10 seconds to answer.
Yeah.
She takes 10 minutes and figures it out, and then she gets it right. Then I got to go back and watch it. So my point is just that every time now we do like on a game night, or they could because the channels will show the game out here in L.A. right about the time Jeopardy normally comes on. Because everything's 3 hours delayed out here or backwards. So we never get the Jeopardy on days there's games because the games always run long. Sports is just too much time to watch sports on TV anymore. It takes too much time. You should not have to watch 4 hours to watch a football game. Again, I make the same complaint. Friday night, the IU lost to Minnesota in football. Okay, and it's like the game takes 4.5 hours to play. How the heck can a college football game take 4.5 hours to play? What is going on there?
Yeah, because an NFL game takes 3 hours. But you also have the stoppage when you get a first down. They don't run the clock constantly when somebody's out of bounds until the final minutes like the NFL. And it's just stupid.
They want to review every play. I mean, what do we have to review a touchdown for? We have to confirm that the guy crossed the goal line, right? There's just
why does it take 2.5 minutes to do that?
Yeah, it takes 2.5, 3 minutes to check to see if the guy crossed the goal line when everybody on TV can see he crossed the goal line. So,
all righty. Well, let's transition
to
yesterday's NFL games. And I'm going to start off with this question. The New Orleans Saints beat the Minnesota Vikings 30-20 in Minnesota. Drew Brees was 18 for 23, didn't throw for a whole lot of yards. They rushed for 100 yards between Ingram and Kamara. and they win the game. I mean, when you look at the box score, you'd think they scored like 10 points. Instead, they get 30 points. They beat the Vikings in Minnesota. The Rams didn't look great against the Packers yesterday. I think the Saints are the best team in the NFL. I mean, they can run the ball. They've got a Hall of Fame quarterback, and their defense is rounding into what they were last year, which was a top 10 defense.
I think the Saints are the hottest team in the NFL right now. I still think Los Angeles is a better football team, top
Really?
to bottom.
How?
Yeah,
How?
I just do. Packers. The game's out here in L.A. I mean, I watched part of that game. Packers played good football yesterday. Aaron rose to the occasion, and Packers can be a good football team when they want to be. So, and I think the bullseye on the back of the Rams right now is huge because they're undefeated. Everybody's going to be one team knocked out. But we're talking about New Orleans. I think New Orleans is by far the hottest team in the NFL right now. And, it's always as good to be hot as it is good in the NFL. You stay hot, you're hot like that, and you're going to win games. So, and I think the Saints are as much a favorite to make it to the Super Bowl as the Rams are right now. In a head-to-head matchup, I'd love to see that game being played.
Well, you're going to see it next week when the Saints host the Rams and put a 1 in the Rams' undefeated record.
Yeah, and that could be. And that's not inconceivable in any way, shape, or form. I think right now they're about the only team in the NFL that could do that without the Rams beating themselves. I mean, I think the Saints can come out and beat the Rams as opposed to the Rams beating themselves. So they're playing good football. They're well coached. Breeze is having another career year. I don't know how the guy's doing it at 40 years old. I mean, you got to start comparing him to a greatness in the likes of Brady in a completely different way. I mean, obviously he hadn't won the Super Bowls that Brady's won, but
he has won a Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl he won, he did play really well. He's gotten the Saints to the playoffs a lot, which nobody ever did before Drew Brees did it. And I think just with the records alone, he's won a Super Bowl. He's got to be in the top 10. Everybody puts Dan Marino in the top 10 because he broke a lot of records. Brees has done the same thing, but the Super Bowl Brees was in, he won. Marino didn't.
I agree. I think that Drew Brees is writing himself into that top 10 list of all-time quarterbacks ever to play the game. If he's not, he's already in the list. But he's establishing himself, and the Saints right now are playing great football. Beating Minnesota is no slouch, although Minnesota really is not turning out to be the team we all thought they would be. They're 4-3-1. They're barely a 500 football team in a weak division. For the most part, division they probably should be running away.
I don't think it's a weak division. I think it's just a team full of average, or a division full of average teams. I mean, there are a lot. The NFC East to me is a weak division, where I don't know that there's a good team in that division. And I mean, you've got the Eagles could be good eventually. I mean, you keep waiting for them to kick it in, but I don't think the Cowboys, scare anybody. And I think if you put all 4 of these teams in the NFC North, I don't see where any of them would be better than anybody, maybe better than Detroit. Look at it
this way. Well, I'll finish on this. The Vikings were pegged as this big defensive prowess team, football team, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're looking at the stats of the Saints, and you and I are both saying, how did they score 30 points? And yet the Vikings gave up 30 points to the Saints team, who statistically did nothing production-wise.
The Saints defense had a lot to do with that, though. And that is why I think the Saints team's the best team, because I think people underrate the defense. They started out the season slow. But the thing is this, in the NFL, it's not whether you start the season out slow or not. It's if, while starting out the season slow, do you get enough wins to be relevant when you play well? And they have. They only lost 1 game leading up to this. And I just think they're the team to beat right now. Of course, it's the NFL.
Yeah, I agree.
3 or 4 weeks
from now.
They're
the hottest team.
That could be
something. Yeah, they're the hottest team right now. But I'm not saying they're the best team, but they're the hottest team.
All right, so let's transition to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Jameis Winston. Anthony Servino, who's having dental surgery today, can't be on the show today, but we had this discussion a few weeks ago, and you guys basically were screaming and hollering that Jameis Winston should be the starting quarterback in Tampa Bay. I said that Fitzpatrick should because Winston's a bust. And I think Jameis Winston pretty much showed everybody that he's a bust yesterday. It's not the fact that he threw 4 interceptions. It's the fact that how bad the interceptions were. I mean, a couple of these interceptions, Steve, were picks that high school quarterbacks wouldn't make that choice to throw the ball. Fitzpatrick comes in and in a quarter goes 11 for 15, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, gets them back in the game.
Yeah.
But the thing this shows is this. You've got with this team, you've got plenty of weapons. You got O.J. Howard, you got Mike Evans, you got Deshaun Jackson, Chris Goodwin, Jaquez Rogers. They have built this team for what anybody says. Jameis Winston has the talent around him to be successful, but he's not.
I agree.
And I think that it's time for them to just go with Fitzpatrick, cut their losses with Winston, and get his ass out of there.
And I want to clarify whether I think Jameis Winston's their franchise or not. They've got their money and their stake and their reputation in Jameis Winston. So my theory is, as soon as they could, they were going to go back to him for public relations reasons, and they did. And
well, you guys told me Ryan Fitzpatrick wasn't any good, though, and that's why they needed to
I don't remember saying Ryan Fitzpatrick wasn't any good. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the problem with Ryan Fitzpatrick is he's a journeyman quarterback who is inconsistent. When he's good, he's as good as any quarterback in the NFL. The problem is he's not consistently good. That's why he's a journeyman quarterback. Otherwise, he would be having a stellar Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, but see, what you just said
he's shown those flashes.
That makes him better than Jameis Winston, because I don't even think Jameis Winston is a good journeyman quarterback.
No, Jameis Winston is a high draft pick they got. They put their farm on it. They bet their farm. They paid him like they mortgaged the farm, and they want to try and save face. They don't want to sit there and look at it and go, "We've screwed up. We put all of our eggs in this basket, and the eggs are cracked, or the eggs are rotten." That's basically what it is. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they should just cut their losses with him. And I don't think, the problem with Fitzpatrick is he's old. He's been in the league 15 years. How many more years can you get out of him? Basically, the Buccaneers have put themselves in a position where they built a pretty good football program, a football team, but now they don't have a quarterback.
Well, or a head coach, because Dirk Cutter's a
head coach.
Almost every head coach they've had says Gruden was a joke. And the other thing is this. If you look, and I've heard this comparison this morning, Jared Goff, when he was Jeff Fisher, he looked like a bust. He gets McVay in, all of a sudden, he's a great quarterback. So the other question is this. Is it the player or is the situation he's in? And when I look at that, though, the way I look at it is this. Jared Goff was only stuck 1 year with Jeff Fisher. So Jeff Fisher could only screw him up so bad. They get McVay in, they turn him around. Jameis Winston's in his 4th year. He's only 24 years old. But I think with Jameis Winston, he's a guy, he's the old gunslinger mentality. But that usually doesn't win you championships. There's been very few so-called gunslingers to win a championship. And I just think Jameis Winston 2 or 3 years from now is probably not even in the NFL.
Yeah. Who was the big quarterback Oakland drafted 1 year that was supposed to be?
That who drafted?
Oakland. Took him with the number 1 pick.
Oh, Jamarcus Russell.
Jamarcus Russell, yeah. I mean, he's slightly better than Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah, which means you suck, because Jamarcus Russell was as bad as anybody ever was.
I don't think that there's any way you can compare Jared Goff in any way to
well, you
Jameis
compare it
Winston,
the first year because Goff was terrible, and then when Fisher left, and you get in a coach and McVay, then all of a sudden you're good again. And if we're going to talk about bad quarterbacks, we might as well transition into the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are now 3-5 after starting the season 2-0, beating the New England Patriots early in the year. Everybody anointed them as the best team in the AFC on week 3. I don't think anybody
anoints
that anymore. Blake Bortles, 24 for 41, 286 yards, 1 touchdown. Not terrible numbers. The Eagles, on the other hand, get the win, 24-18. Carson Wentz, 21 for 30, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns. And really, in the end, I still think the Eagles are going to win the NFC East, and I think the Jaguars are not even going to sniff the playoffs.
Well, not now. They're down in Colts territory now. They're tied with the Colts now, aren't they? 3-5.
Yeah.
Aren't the Colts 3? Yeah, Colts are 3-5 right now.
Colts are going the opposite direction of them.
Colts are one of the most improved teams, fastest improving teams in the NFL. We'll get to them later, though, but let's talk about this. First off, are we done playing games in London? Seriously?
No.
No, we have more? There's more games in London?
I don't know. I'm sure there's a game in London every week now. I don't really care. I think it's stupid. The only thing I like about it is when I wake up on Sunday morning, I can actually watch the game at 9:30.
Yeah. Well, it's 6:30 here, so you woke up here at 6:30 on Sunday morning, you turn the game on.
Yeah.
So that was a good part.
I don't want to wake up anywhere at 6:30 in the morning on Sunday or any other day.
When you got Australian shepherds that want to go out and run and swim. And you can do that in late October here in California, so we can't do that in Indiana. So, but I'm not sold on the Eagles. They don't seem like they're hitting on six.
I'm not sold on them either. I just think they're better than the Redskins, Cowboys, and Giants.
Yeah, but how's the schedule strength look? I mean, I guess they just play each other now, don't they?
Well, they're going to play close to the same schedule. So I don't know. I watch the Redskins, and everything I flash back to with the Redskins is that game against the Colts. And they looked really bad in that game. Alex Smith is there. He's a decent quarterback. They got Jordan Reed. They got some players. Number one, I don't like Jay Gruden. I don't think he's a good football coach at all. And that's, like I said, I'm picking the Eagles to win this division basically by default.
Is there a Gruden you like?
No, I don't like any Grudens.
No,
Bobby Gruden. Bobby Gruden.
Bobby Gruden?
Yeah, he teaches special ed down at Clarksville Community College.
Jacksonville's done. I mean, they're probably the biggest disappointment in the AFC this year, I would say. I mean, we all figured them to at least be going in the AFC Championship game against New England to be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl. We all talked about that in preseason, as I recall. And not all of us picked them. I don't even know who did or not.
I didn't. I picked the Saints and the Chargers, and I think my picks look all right so far.
Well, your picks aren't unrealistic. Anybody who picked Jacksonville right now.
The Eagles, though, if you look at their schedule, they play the Cowboys at home. They should win that game, I think. But that game's going to decide a lot for both teams. That'll put them at 5-4.
Yeah.
Then they go to New Orleans. You got to expect to lose. But if the Saints have a huge effort and beat the Rams, you could have one of those letdown games also. But you figure they lose that, they go to 5-5. They play the Giants. They play the Redskins all at home. That puts them at 7-5. They go to Dallas. I think they get the win there. They play at the Rams, probably a loss. They host the Texans. I think they can win that game. I think they beat the Eagles. I think you're looking at 10-6. 10-6, I think, wins this division easily. And even if they screw one of those up at 9-7, I think that'll get the division also. But when I look at it, I think they've got the better coach than anybody else in that division. I think they get the better quarterback. Yeah. I mean, it's just they're not a complete team like they were last year. The offensive line's not as good. There's no running game right now, which a lot of injuries, Jay Ajayi, guys like that are no longer able to play. So I still like the Eagles to win that division, but it's just because I think they suck less than the other teams.
That's just true. I mean, the Eagles are a good football team. I mean, they're a very good football team. Obviously, they're defending Super Bowl champs, and I know they've changed the personnel around and moved people in and out a little bit, but they're just probably of the best teams out there, the good NFL NFC teams. They're the biggest underachievers right now in my eyes. So whether they can right that ship or not remains to be seen. They have a pathway to do it. Like you said, their schedule's not overwhelming that they've got to go dig and for every win they're going to get. They've got some opportunity to clearly win some games and get some of their advantage. But the question is, they haven't shown me yet at 4-4 that they can do that. And they're going to do it. I don't know. It just seems like maybe it was the magical year the Foles had last year. Wentz does not seem to be clicking with his team in terms of leadership and moving the team.
I think a lot of that is having no running game too, though, Steve, because his numbers aren't bad. He's throwing the ball well, but when all you can do is throw the ball, it's a lot easier to defend you.
Right, sure.
But, all right, that brings us to the Cleveland Browns, who I did predict would lose by double digits because they're going to start to do that a lot, and they did. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Week 8, Le'Veon Bell still not there. And right now, I would say after this game, Steve, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers have a need for him. James Conner, 24 carries, 146 yards, 6 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Roethlisberger played well, still threw a pick. But if James Conner can carry the rock like that, and you don't have to risk bringing a cancer like Le'Veon Bell back, that helps the Steelers. But I think that this game, to me, tells us more about the Browns than it does the Steelers. The Browns, there's only been one man in history to have a worse winning percentage as a head coach than Hugh Jackson, and that was the guy that coached, and he was the owner also back in the 40s, so he'd had to fire himself. So the Cleveland Browns need to get Hugh Jackson out of there. They need to clean out the entire coaching staff, and that's probably not capable of happening in the middle of the season. So I think they're in for a long rest of the year.
Yeah, I think they probably will clean house at the end of the year, because I believe Cleveland, the owners got to believe at this point they've got some talent now. And they've got players. Mayfield, I still think is going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. But they're not going to do it with this coaching staff. It's evident. I mean, yeah. So, but on the other hand, Pittsburgh is a team that's really turned right into their ship. I think it'd be a huge mistake to bring Le'Veon Bell back at all. I just let him go. You're going to have to fight with him on a contract anyway. You're going to be paying him out the butt. He's going to come back in with a chip on his shoulder. Like you said, Connor's doing great. I just would write him off now if I was Pittsburgh. He could do nothing but disrupt the continuity of that football team, the way that the Steelers are gelling right now and becoming a real threat in the AFC. So, yeah, I wouldn't touch him. I just let him sit, let him ride, trade him.
All right.
Get whatever you can get for him and move on.
And the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, 4 touchdowns again, 303 yards.
Yeah.
30-23 over the Denver Broncos. The Broncos played them tough. I think a lot of that is because it's a division game. They're so used to each other. But still, the amount of talent on this offense. Sammy Watkins, 107 yards, 8 receptions. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt. This is a good football team. I think the one thing we did see, though, is the Bengals did lay down last week, because the defense for the Chiefs, I think, is still a problem, especially stopping the running game. Phillip Lindsay ran for almost 100 yards. Devontae Booker, 78. So they had almost 200 yards, almost 7 yards a carry, or a little over 7 yards a carry. Case Keenum threw for 2 touchdowns. So I think the question in Kansas City still has to be this. We know that being a high-powered offensive team will lead to a 12-win season or more. But will the lack of defense in the end bite them in the ass when they go play a New England or a Pittsburgh who has somebody who can eat the clock up by running the ball? But on top of that, they have 2 quarterbacks that are battle-tested. And we don't know what Patrick Mahomes is going to do in a playoff situation. And you've got the questions about Andy Reid as a playoff coach.
Yeah, my whole point I was going to get to when I let you get done, with an eloquent synopsis of the game, was to say I'm not going to gauge anything by the Chiefs till the playoffs, because historically they fold in the playoffs, and I don't know if it's going to be different. I think Kansas City has the ability to outscore anybody. I think they can put up more points if they need to. So I wouldn't worry about their defense. I don't think this team relies on defense too much. I think they're totally relying on their offense just to carry themselves. And so far, 7 of the 8 times they've showed up, they've just outscored everybody. But my concern just is the typical blight that happens to Kansas City in the playoffs. And is that going to be another factor and continue on again? They're going to get a top seed, obviously. Maybe be the number 1 seed in the AFC by the time it's all said and done if they keep playing like they are. But historically, they do not fare well in the playoffs. I mean, I hope somehow the Colts make the playoffs and they draw the Chiefs in the first game. I think the Colts go to the second game for the playoffs.
I think you're nuts there. All right, next up, we're going to act like Steve never made that comment until we're going to act like Steve never made that comment. All right, maybe the most impressive display, I think, yesterday by a team, and it's not that they won the game, because I thought Carolina would beat Baltimore, but the way they manhandled Baltimore, they're up 24-7 by halftime. They put this game away early. Cam Newton played well, and I'm not a huge Cam Newton fan, but 21 for 29, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's hard to say anything bad about him there. They didn't have great success running the ball, but defensively the Panthers are really good, and if Cam Newton doesn't turn the ball over, this is a team that I think has to be taken seriously when you get to the playoffs, if they get there.
They're probably the most scary team in the NFC. I mean, they're like Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, I've watched them play a couple times this year in parts of the games, like on red zone, where they don't look like they can move the ball 2 inches. And they come around now and take a pretty good Baltimore Ravens football team. And like you said, just they look sharp, they look efficient, they look crisp. That's not a team that I think most NFC teams are going to face in the playoffs. I wouldn't want to play this team because when Cam Newton is on, he is good. The problem is he's just so inconsistent in his decision-making. It's not even his athletic ability. I go back to the same thing. I think he's too good of an athlete to play quarterback. I think he outwits himself with his athletic skills over his mindset of being a good quarterback.
Well, I think this, though. I think he doesn't seem like a stupid
Yesterday
guy.
He did well.
And the thing is this.
No.
We have seen in the past where quarterbacks like him, when they get later in their career, do figure it out. I mean, a guy that was like that was Steve Young. Steve Young was a guy that, outsmarted himself a lot through the start of his career also. Another guy was Randall Cunningham. With Philadelphia, he put up some huge numbers, never really got over the top. He goes to Minnesota. He's a little bit older, and in 1998, he's the MVP, and he's team's 15-1 with him being a drop-back passer. So I think this. I'm not a Cam Newton fan, but I do think we've seen some signs that he might slowly be starting to figure this out. And if he does with their defense, I think they're really dangerous. And when we look at Baltimore, the thing that stands out to me is this. I'm one of the few guys that I think Joe Flacco can play. But it's real hard to play a team like Carolina when you really don't have the threat of a running game. And Alex Collins, 11 carries, 49 yards. Their second highest rusher is Lamar Jackson, who's coming in basically running a version of the Wildcat. So I think the biggest difference between these two teams is with Carolina, you got two guys in Newton and Christian McCaffrey who could actually get some yardage on the ground and put some doubt in the defense's mind. Where I think with the Ravens, you can either pin your ears and go get Flacco, or you could choose to just play coverage against Flacco and not really have to worry about the running game.
Yeah. And again, as far as Baltimore's concerned, I am not a fan of this platooning quarterback crap in the NFL.
Yeah, but they're not platooning the quarterback. They're giving you something different. It's kind of what the Steelers used to do with Cordell Stewart in the mid to late 90s with him and Neil O'Donnell. I don't think it's the same thing here. And I also think by doing this, they do get Jackson's feet wet. So we know Flacco's had back problems over the last few years. If it gets to the point where Flacco can't play, at least Lamar Jackson has been in to feel somewhat at least the speed of the game.
Okay. I mean, you're a coach. You get this better than I do, but I don't like it. I
don't like the platooning quarterbacks either, but I think in this situation, I don't think it's like they're bringing Lamar Jackson in and he's actually running the offense. Lamar Jackson is being brought in the game to do specific things to help the game plan. To me, that's different than, well, Flacco's going to play this series, and then Jackson's going to play this series, and then Flacco's coming in here and Jackson's coming in here. I don't equate it as the same thing as I think I take it differently than you do.
Yeah, well, the question is that, okay, you're a coach. If you're bringing Lamar Jackson in, all right, if you're the defense playing against the Ravens, then you're like, okay, they're bringing 8 in. They're going to run a play to him. So doesn't it just kind of take away your element of surprise or take away a lot of your options?
No, because
when you bring this guy in and you take Flacco out, it's like, well, we know they're going to run some kind of trick play or some kind of quarterback draw or some kind of option or something. It limits what the offense can do when he comes in.
Yeah, but this is the thing, Steve. The way I take it is this. You may know what I'm going to do, but also for the entire week, even though we may only run 3 plays with Lamar Jackson, you take time preparing for that, which takes away time you prepare for the regular offense that you're going to face with Flacco. And the thing is, with Lamar Jackson, you may know he's coming in, so they're probably going to do this. But, I mean, with Lamar Jackson, you may only have 4 or 5 plays he could run in week 3. But by the time you get to week 10, there may be 15 different plays he can run. But to me, the more stuff you can make the other team think about and prepare for, the better it is for you with your regular package.
I guess. I mean, 4-4 doesn't seem to be working too well for them.
Well,
they're
4
a 500
and 4,
ball club doing
I think
that,
this 4 and 4, they don't have the talent to be 4 and 4. I mean, if you look at it, they have no run game. Their wide receiver threats are they've got a bunch of number 2 and 3 guys. You've got a quarterback with a bum back. You've got a defense that is still solid, but still, like I said, when you look at this team, to me, the offensive weaponry is not there. And I think that they've just tried to make Lamar Jackson an extra dimension to get some offense. And I don't think they're a very good team either. I think they're a very well-coached team, which is why no matter what Harbaugh has on the field, I mean, he's always going to be somewhere between 7 and 9 wins and contending for the playoffs. And
I don't want.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just to put this conversation to bed because we can drag us out. I don't like the concept of platooning quarterbacks, period. I don't care that it's Lamar Jackson or Joe Flacco. I think that in the NFL, it's the most critical position on the field. It's why they're the highest paid athletes in the game of professional football. I think you go with the quarterback and you stick with him and you run your offense and build it around that guy.
How about this, though? Where they use him is usually like goal line or something. If it's 3rd and goal from the 5, Joe Flacco is either handing it off or he's throwing it.
Yeah.
Correct?
Okay.
With Lamar Jackson,
I see.
You got to cover a lot more stuff. And like I said, they're not putting him in the regular offense. They're using him for special situations.
Right.
But
yeah,
all right, let's agree that I was right there, and we'll go to the next one.
With this. I don't like the whole concept of platooning quarterbacks.
I don't either. I just don't think that's.
I don't like Notre Dame does it when they were doing it.
Well, no, because that's completely different, though. They're trying to figure out who their starting quarterback is.
Right.
This team already knows who their starting quarterback is. They're just trying to add something to it, and it doesn't seem to make Joe Flacco angry. I don't think Joe wants to run a quarterback sneak.
At 4-4, they're in jeopardy of not making the playoffs now. Not being able to get into the playoffs at 4-4. Bethany has been saying that he's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
All right. So, next up, we will go to the best quarterback in the NFL, Russell Wilson, who yesterday was 14 for 17, 200. Laugh all you want, but he is 14 for 17, 248 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. They go and they beat the Detroit Lions on the road when most people, I think, gave Detroit the advantage. Seattle is a team that Chris Carson is their running back. Their wide receivers, Steve. I mean, come on. Their wide receivers are David Moore, Ed Dixon, Tyler Lockett, Doug Baldwin. And right now, Russell Wilson has this team at 4-3. He went to Detroit yesterday, threw 3 incomplete passes. He threw as many touchdown passes as he did incomplete passes. So if I'm starting a franchise today, Steve, I want Russell Wilson.
He's a good pick. I mean, I definitely the success of this team is falling on Russell Wilson's shoulder pads, and he's doing a heck of a job. And he's always been a good quarterback in the league. He's got good field presence. He's very much unlike.
Just go ahead and give me the butt. Give me the butt, you Colts fan.
No, there's no buts. I can't argue with you. How much of this is Pete Carroll? Is Pete Carroll involved in this too? I mean, I think Russell Wilson is the reason the Saints are winning games.
Wait a second. Pete Carroll is an atrocious football coach. Always has been.
Okay,
he won at USC because he cheated.
I wanted to go there. I was trying to draw it out of you.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, we don't know about Frank Reich because I know you're going to go with Andrew Luck. Correct?
No.
If you were starting an NFL franchise today, who would you take? Andrew Luck or Russell Wilson?
I would take Andrew Luck because I think Andrew Luck has a stronger arm. He's got size. He's got durability for the most part. He's when he gets on a snowboard.
He missed 2 years, but he's got durability.
Because he got on a snowboard, broke his shoulder.
Russell Wilson, you know what? Russell Wilson cares enough about his team not to go snowboarding.
Yeah, bad decision, no doubt.
Yeah, it's a bad decision for you to question durability with a man that's never missed a start and a man that's missed 2 years.
No, I can't. take away from Russell Wilson. I won't do it. You're not going to go me into. He and Luck are two of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
No,
and
the question is who's the best? Who's the best?
That's okay. I'm going to say Andrew Luck. I would build my team around Andrew Luck.
You would rather build a team around Andrew Luck than Russell Wilson?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all. I mean, and if I took Russell Wilson, I wouldn't be in bad shape either.
No, you'd be in much better shape than if you took Andrew Luck.
Okay.
And I love Andrew Luck. I think he's a great player, but I think the comparison, I truly believe Russell Wilson is one of the top 3 quarterbacks right now. And I think Andrew Luck may be in there too. Because I'll tell you, I would take Russell Wilson and Andrew Luck over Aaron Rodgers any day.
At this point in their careers, I would. When
any day.
Rodgers was playing at his peak, it's hard. He would be up there with him too. But the thing I think about Wilson and Andrew to Luck to some degree is they're both doing more as quarterbacks to carry the load for their teams than probably most other quarterbacks in the NFL are doing.
Well, yeah,
and they're doing it well enough where I think the Colts are one of the more improving teams, one of the fastest improving teams in the NFL. And to say that the Seahawks have a winning record at this point in time with what they don't have around Russell Wilson puts it all on Russell Wilson's shoulders. And I know you're not a Pete Carroll fan, and I'm ambivalent about him as a coach myself, but I think the success of the Seahawks is falling entirely on Russell Wilson's shoulders.
Yeah, because they got Darren Bevell as the offensive coordinator. They've got the worst offensive and defensive coordinators in the NFL. I thought they would be last place this year. I thought Russell Wilson might be good enough to win them 6 games, but right now Russell Wilson may be good enough to get them into the playoffs.
And they just lost their owner, too.
Andrew Luck may be good enough to get the Colts to the playoffs. Their schedule is easy. If they can get on a little run here, they've got a shot to do something also.
I think the Colts making the playoffs is ridiculous because they won't go anywhere in it, and they'll just lose a draft pick. Yeah, I'd rather see the Colts just miss it this year.
Look at it like this, though, Steve.
Get a high pick.
Let's see. Y'all been there since 1984, and if you go by that, there's only been 1 year that was a success anyways.
Well, we've had 2 Super Bowl
It doesn't matter. Going to the Super Bowl don't mean anything. You got to win it.
Okay.
Anybody can get to a championship game. You got to win it. The difference is this. The reason Joe Montana is considered one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time is because he won Super Bowls. Dan Marino usually doesn't get in that conversation because he didn't. Kenny Anderson, if the Bengals win Super Bowl 16, would have been in the Hall of Fame 2 decades ago. But they didn't. And even though he threw for 300 yards, ran for a touchdown, threw for a couple touchdowns, he's not getting in, even though he played well because he didn't win that game. And in the end, you just said that they don't have a chance to do anything, so they might as well just draft.
Right. That's how I feel about it. But anyway, the Seahawks make the playoffs? They got to go through Los Angeles, right?
Well, they're not going to win the division. I mean, they're 3.5, 4 games back from the Rams there. But maybe they can win 9 or 10 games and slip in as a wild card. It would shock the hell out of me. And I think that if one of these 2 guys gets their teams to the playoffs, then that's the guy that we should have both chosen. And I don't know that either one of them will. I would bet against both of them. I just think the fact that they have their teams in the conversation halfway through the season says a lot about how good they are.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks are hurt. They got to play at the Rams. Then they got to go to Carolina, which Carolina can. Then they got the Vikings. Then they got to play the Chiefs. Then the Chargers. Then the Packers. You got a break playing the 49ers. 49ers twice, and the Cardinals. So the last 3 games they can win. Should win the last 3 games.
Yeah,
they got 49ers twice and Cardinals.
So they're going to be 7.
But they've got a tough schedule coming in. I mean, they're playing some top teams right now. Chargers are a good football team. Rams, obviously, best team in the NFL right now, or only undefeated team. Panthers, we saw what they can do yesterday. Vikings, that's a wash. I mean, again, if the Vikings play as they're capable playing.
Hey, remember this, though. The Vikings are a team that lost to Buffalo also.
Right. No, like I said, it depends on what Vikings team shows up. So, but the Vikings are going to start clawing for playoff, superiority too right now too. So, everybody's going to start up in their game a little bit right now.
All right, so we will go to the team that is keeping the champagne on ice for the 1972 Miami Dolphins, the Los Angeles Rams, who ran their record to 8-0 yesterday against the Green Bay Packers, who've dropped to 3-3-1. Jared Goff, 19 for 35, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns. Todd Gurley rushes for 114 yards on 25 carries. The Packers played well, but in the end, to me, the Rams are the better team. The Rams won the game. You can be a Packer fan and say, oh, my God, we played great, but you lost. And in the end, the only thing that matters is if you win or lose. And right now, the Packers are 3-3-1. I still don't think they're a very good team. I think they played really well yesterday. But this is the NFL. As we talked, Buffalo went to Minnesota and beat the Vikings. We see games like that every week. But the big difference is a team like the Rams is so good because even if they don't play their best game, they can still and will usually still find a way to win that game.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a big plus for the Rams right there. I watched that game. It was on local out here. So I watched a good part of that game. And they didn't look as crisp as they normally did. Now, it's immaterial, but you saw where Gurley laid down. That was a class move on his part, too, where he was running in at the end of the game on the last play, basically, and he stopped and fell to a knee, and that took the touchdown. So he's not running up the score on Green Bay. So the score would have been a little bit more. Was there about a minute left?
Oh, no, he did that to win the game. Okay, look at it like this. I would tell him to take a knee also or to lay down because at 29-27, if you go in with a minute left and score a touchdown, it's 35-27. An extra point is not a sure thing nowadays, not from 35 yards. You could get that extra point blocked, run back for 2 points, and the Packers are only down 6. Or you could just get it blocked and the score's just 35-27. You're kicking off to Aaron Rodgers with a minute left and a touchdown and 2-point conversion and the game's tied. So I don't think, not to say Gurley's not a classy guy, but I think in that situation, the only way you could possibly lose the game, and this may not make sense to a lot of people, but the only way you can lose that game right then
give the ball back to
a touchdown. Is if you score that touchdown and you miss the extra point, they're within a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, and Aaron Rodgers has got the ball in his hands. And we've seen how that works out a lot of times. Mm-hmm. You get a Hail Mary touchdown, 2-point conversion. Next thing you know, you're in overtime.
I believe Green Bay had no timeouts either. So, yeah, it's still, a minute's lethal to a guy like Aaron Rodgers. He can move you down the field in 30 seconds in the end zone quickly. So you're right. It's a good call. But anyway, the point is that the bullseye on the back of the Rams right now is as big as anybody in the NFL, and they're still winning football games. I think that says a lot. They did not look as crisp as they've looked earlier in the year, but it's got to be difficult to get a team up to play every single game. The Coliseum was sold out. It looked like it was packed there at the game, so there was a lot of people there, a lot of LA fans.
Yeah, but there was more Packer fans there than there were Rams fans, it sounded like.
Yeah, I didn't pay that close attention. I just saw the stadium was pretty full. And given the fact the Dodgers were going to be playing later on that day, that's pretty good. But anyway, the Rams won. The Rams, I still think, are the best team in the NFL right now. They're the team to beat. I think that as long as they keep winning ugly, like I said, however you win, they're still winning. They're the only undefeated team. So I don't have much bad to say about the Rams at this point in time. They're well coached. They got star players across the board, and they're winning tough games.
All right. Next
Gurley gets 114 yards. People got to be keen on these guys right now, and they're still putting numbers on the board.
All right.
Goff's turning out to be a good, solid quarterback.
Will get him this week.
It's going to be a great game. It's probably going to be the best game in the NFL to date. I do think so. I think the Rams are a little more stable than the Saints, but when Drew Brees is on, he's like Aaron Rodgers when he's on. Those guys also become unbeatable when they're playing their best. When Drew Brees is being the best Drew Brees he can be, he's almost unbeatable, as is Aaron Rodgers. The question is that Drew Brees going to show up, and is the rest of the Saints going to show up with him? more consistently, the Rams team as a unit has showed up and been consistent. So let's see if that goes.
How can you be 6-1 and not be consistent?
Just consistent in the production. Like I said, Breeze did not have really necessarily a big statistical game yesterday, but they found a way to win.
Yeah,
they won. Right. Yeah.
Next up, the Chicago Bears, without Khalil Mack, shut down the New York Jets 24-10. The thing that impressed me here is without Khalil Mack, they held Sam Darnold 14 for 29, 153 yards. But the most impressive thing to me was the way they shut down the Jets' run game. Isaiah Crowell was held to 25 yards on 13 carries. On the offensive end, Trubisky played fairly well, 16 for 29, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's not like he's Blake Bortles. Jordan Harold, 22 carries for 81 yards. And we just got an update. The Cleveland Browns have just fired Hugh Jackson.
Sweet.
There you go.
It's
not sweet. I'm a Bengals fan. I wanted Hugh to stay forever.
Stay forever.
Yeah. I mean, I love Hugh. Hugh should always be there. Now the Bengals will fire Marvin Lewis and hire Hugh Jackson.
Oh, sweet. So who's the coach going to be? Have they announced the new coach?
They just said anybody
Cleveland?
would be better.
Why don't you go up there and apply?
I've still got a couple more games to win, so I wouldn't be available till after November the 17th or 18th. So,
well, nobody's been there for 3 years, so nobody's been there for 2.5 years. What the hell?
Well,
they're going to 2 games going to matter to them.
I can't be going until then. Yeah, so Hugh Jackson has been fired. We got a little breaking news. That
was
cool.
That took too long. That should have come the day after they drafted Mayfield. So
the question is this. Who will be the new coach of the Cleveland Browns? Because it would be hard to put Todd Haley in there because he's done a terrible job as the offensive coordinator, I think.
Well, I bet he's the interim coach. I don't think they can get anybody in there. Who's available?
There's probably a lot of people that would take the job because it pays pretty well.
Can we put Tony Dungy in there?
Why?
Well, why not?
Because he sucks too.
Okay, well, I didn't question that. I just, I'm trying to think of a name who's sitting out there right now who's a brand name. They're going to want a brand name.
But see, that's the problem, and that's why they won't be successful. The LA Rams didn't take a brand name and say
no, I know.
And the problem is they're going to take a brand name. Maybe they'll keep Greg Williams or Todd Haley, but the guys are jokes. They cannot coach football. Most of these guys can't. They're there because of who they know, who their daddy knew, who their daddy coached for, and that's the problem with everything. I mean, Cleveland needs to go out and get a young guy that has a little bit of, what's, as my mom used to say back in the 70s, a little piss and vinegar to him, to get in these guys' faces and to get them going.
They need to find Sean McVay. Or who's the coach in New Orleans? I can't think of his name right now.
Sean
What's the
Payton?
Coach's name in New Orleans? Sean, when Payton was young, the Saints took a chance on him. I mean, they need to find that coach.
Yeah.
Those guys out there that are like a Sean McVay, a guy that just knew the game. Don't take another brand name or somebody who's the son of another coach or a Shula or who's the line
Giants
guy.
see what that is. The Giants have Mike Shula as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And he's an idiot.
Aren't there a bunch of that says a lot right there.
Yeah.
Aren't there a bunch of Shanahans out there coaching too?
Oh, yeah, and there's a couple Fishers who were sons of Jeff Fisher who still have jobs.
Maybe they'll get Bobby Gruden. Maybe they'll go get Bobby Gruden.
Bobby Gruden. Well, Bobby, I mean, I think that the big thing with Bobby is the special ed department at the college he teaches at realized that usually colleges don't have special ed departments, so I think they're going to cut it. So he is going to need a job, and Bobby's a hell of a good guy. I mean, he's never really done anything in his life. I mean, he's just... I think he played badminton, intramural badminton in college. Yeah. He went to the University of Tulsa, and he was. I think that he made it to the Final Four to intramural badminton championships. But here's something, and we talked about this last week. Those shin kicking championships, which are real, he actually placed 8th in 2012, but then he retired because he thought it was taking too much out of him.
There you go.
So. I think Bobby Gruden would be a great job. We need to get Bobby on the show.
Let's get him.
Yeah. Well,
Well, good for Cleveland. I think it's a good move for Cleveland. I think they'll go with an in-house assistant coach as interim until they can find a coach. Don't expect them to find a coach till the end of the season. At this
they
point
could
in
find
time,
one if they wanted to. They just won't.
I don't think they should. I think they should take their time and do a really good search and find somebody that can develop Mayfield and turn that franchise around. Because I think Mayfield they finally have found a franchise quarterback after all the attempts they've done to draft one over the years. I think he is going to be a good winning quarterback in the NFL, much like a Russell Wilson type of quarterback. He's going to be able to do a lot of things for you, and he seems to have good leadership skills. I just think they should take their time now and write this year off again, but give their fans and their players hope that they're going to bring somebody like a Sean McVay in that knows the game, that's young, that's as hungry as they are, understands what the player's mentality is more, and not make a rush to judgment and not bring in some brand name who is going to fail miserably too.
All right.
Jim Caldwell's available, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a guy like
that's what
Dave
they're looking
Taub,
to do, I'll bet.
Dave Taub would be a guy I think they would look at least in the future. Another guy, the guy that everybody's going to freak out and scream for when this season over is Lincoln Riley. He's one of the hottest coaching names in all of football after what he did as the Oklahoma Sooners head coach. And, of course, who was his quarterback? It was Baker Mayfield.
Mayfield, yeah.
I think Lincoln Riley, to me, would be a good hire. I mean, it's just he's not a retread that's failed everywhere he's been. And
where's he at right now? Is he at Oklahoma still?
Yeah, and, I mean, I think it's a perfect fit if those guys end up together. Now, whether Lincoln Riley is an NFL football coach, we don't know. But we already know that Todd Haley is not an NFL head coach because he's proven it. Hell, Hugh Jackson had proven he wasn't. How many jobs has Hugh Jackson got? Hell, Hugh will probably be hired as the Bengals' new defensive coordinator today, even though he's never coached defense.
Yeah. Jackson will land on his feet real quick.
Somebody will hire him because people are stupid.
Sure.
I mean, it's just nepotism. That's all it is. It's kind of like going to your local high school, you know. There's favorites. There's little
back to the Bears.
Oh,
what do you think of the
who
Bears?
Cares about the Bears now? Hugh Jackson got fired. I thought they gave a great performance under the circumstances.
I think the Bears are going to be a good football team.
The Bears have a shot. I mean, it's like almost every team in the NFL has a shot still. The Colts still have a shot.
I like the Bears.
Yeah, I like the Bears. They're the team that I thought would win this division at the start of the year, and y'all mocked me. But now you like the Bears, so I would like to bring that up.
I like the way they play football. They play
Chicago
Bears
hit
football.
You in the mouth. They run the ball.
They do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Trubisky's not a liability to that football team. He's not a liability. He's obviously not an upper echelon quarterback yet, but he seems to be getting better every time he plays, incrementally, baby steps. But he's not a liability to that football team, and I think they stay with him and build around him and keep developing him. He's not shown that he's incorrigible. Yeah, I think guys like Cam Newton, I keep saying Cam Cameron, damn.
I know.
Cam Newton
he must owe you money or you must owe him money.
I know. I just like the guy. He was a class act and a nice guy, and I knew him when he was at Indiana. So I always liked Cam Cameron. Always just a classy guy. But unlike, to me, Cam Cameron is incorrigible. You're never going to coach anything out of Cam Cameron. He's going to always do what he wants to do.
Hold on.
Trubisky is
Who are we talking about? You just said Cam Cameron was incorrigible that time.
Cam Newton.
Okay, so who's incorrigible?
I was using
Cam
him as an example against
Cam
Trubisky.
Cameron.
Trubisky is very coachable. The Bears are getting better. Move on to the next game.
All right.
The Jets suck. The Jets are a bad
we already talked
team.
about the
I
Colts
feel bad
Raiders.
for their coach.
We know
they got a good coach in a bad environment, in a bad situation, bad owners. I don't know what it is, but the Jets should be doing better than they're doing. It always amazes me.
No, they shouldn't. They should not be doing better to what they're doing. They have one of the top 3 head coaches in the NFL in Todd Bowles.
I know.
If they fire him, they're going to be done. They are still a year or 2 away.
And they're going to fire him.
They need. I know. They need offensive linemen. They need more defensive players.
How about
what?
How about him going to Cleveland?
Oh, that would be great for Cleveland. But
wouldn't it be?
Would be
I
bad.
like that coach.
It'd be bad for him. All right, so we had the Giants got beat by the Redskins. Nothing to talk about there. The Cardinals beat the 49ers. So if Matt Andrews-Scavenge listens to this show,
how long do you stay with Manning for the rest of the year?
No, I said last week Kyle Lauletta should be the starting quarterback. You got to find out if he can play or not. I'm not saying he can play. I have big questions about him, but I also think there's some positives with him. And if you don't find out right now, I mean, you never know. You might find out Lauletta can play, and then you don't have to use a first-round pick on a quarterback next year because right now, if you look at the quarterbacks coming out, I don't think that there's a quarterback worth drafting in the first round right now.
They missed their opportunity. But, they had to take Saquon Barkley. Barkley only runs for 38 yards yesterday, which has been definitely an off day for him. And I don't think Manning's bad. I think if you put Manning in a different situation, he'd flourish. But still, I still think he's talented. I just think New York is just a bad place for him to be. I think it's a
bad place for any quarterback to be because
any quarterback to be. He's shell-shocked. I think he's just shell-shocked. You can see he throws off his back foot. He flinches when he throws. He's just waiting to get hit. And I just think I would love to see Eli go to another team where
I like to see him go to Jacksonville and get a chance to finish correctly.
Yeah, Jacksonville would be a great place for Eli Manning to finish out his career because they've got a good football team, and I think he would improve that team immensely. I feel bad for Eli Manning because I think he's a better quarterback than he's getting credit for. He's just in a crap hole of a place, and the Giants are doing nothing to rectify that situation.
All right. And tonight, Monday Night Football, we've got the Patriots at the Bills. I don't think there's much to talk about there at all, Steve. So do you got anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
You're not going to talk about the Colts Raiders?
We did.
No, we didn't.
We talked about Andrew Luck.
About Andrew Luck.
You never heard me talk
Marlon
about the Bengals.
Is Marlon Mack becoming a player or what?
I believe earlier in the year, before the Bengals played the Colts, and you claimed they had no running game, I said Marlon Mack's pretty good, and you said, nah, he's just a fullback.
But look at what Luck's doing to this football team. I mean, he's throwing for 239 yards. Nyheim Hines, the other running back, runs for 78 yards. I mean, combined, they got 2 running backs now. All of a sudden, they're running for over 200 yards.
You also
that's uncharacteristic of a Colts football team. You got to take it
with a slight grain of salt. Because they're playing
the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, come on. If they would have played a real defense, they may not have. I'm not saying they wouldn't have, but I'm saying there's a decent shot that they may not have.
And then you don't even want to talk about the fact that, what's his name? Who's our kicker? Vinatieri, all-time leading scorer in the NFL now.
Yeah, good for him. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's a pretty big achievement. Did he finally pass George Blanda?
Everybody else. He is
George Blanda played longer.
George Blanda also played quarterback, too.
Yeah, he scored a lot of touchdowns, too.
Yes, he scored a lot of touchdowns, Steve. That was very
as a quarterback.
Perceptive of you.
I don't think that Adam Vinatieri has ever scored a touchdown. Not to my knowledge.
Threw touchdown. I think George Blanda probably threw more touchdown passes than anything else.
I'm sure he rushed for a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah,
George
at some
Blanda.
point. Yeah. Well,
look it up. Google it real quick.
No, I don't.
We'll end on that. How many rushing touchdowns did George Blanda have?
I don't know. How many? You got Google, too. Why do I have to be the one that looks it up?
Mine.
Just because I'm the one who can spell, because I went to Indiana State and you went to Indiana.
I know. I think the Colts are improving. I think the Colts are getting better every week all of a sudden. I think Luck is getting better. He's maturing into his old Andrew Luck. He's getting healthy. And I think the Colts have a shot at making the playoffs. I don't know that it's a good thing or not that they make the playoffs because I think right now they need draft picks. But I do like the fact that the Colts are getting better and better, and they're still in that weak division. What is it, the AFC South? Is that what it is?
Yeah, your favorite team's in the AFC South. I told you so.
Yeah, I think that Houston's going to have to slow it down a little bit because they're playing good football right now too. But the Colts have an outside chance of making the playoffs, and I think that gives me at least some hope since I'm a Colts fan. How many rushing touchdowns did George Wayne have?
9.
Okay.
His last one was in 1960. He played from 49 to 75. He actually had 1 receiving touchdown also.
There you go.
All right.
So he had 10 touchdowns go on all his kicking.
Yeah.
No, that's just minutia that we don't need to know anyway. So I don't have anything else. Any other games? Yeah, we need to talk about tonight's game, Bills.
No, we don't need to talk about that.
Here's what you want to talk about.
I don't want to talk about that at all.
No, why can't they come up with marquee games for these Sunday night, Monday night games?
Remember this, though. Last year, the Bills were
Bills made the playoffs.
Yeah.
I know. Come on. It's the Buffalo Bills. They're 0 everything in Super Bowls. They've never done anything. Their greatest claim to fame is OJ. Seriously, you can't put a better game on Monday night? You know what? It doesn't matter because Dancing with the Stars is on tonight anyway.
Well, it doesn't
I think it's
matter
Disney
anyway.
week.
Well, I mean,
it's Halloween week.
You're a grown
Never
man
mind, it's
that
Halloween
watches.
Week.
Yeah.
It's Halloween week on Dancing with the Stars. It's good. Never mind. I don't care about
football. The Devil's Holiday was a gay show, but all right. If you want to, glorify the devil with your Halloween talk, that's fine. But I draw the line at Dancing with the Stars because that's just stupid. I mean, why do you want to watch people dance?
Mike, let's end up with this.
Seriously, why do you want to watch people dance?
It broadens you.
How does it broaden you to watch somebody else dance? Why don't you just take your ass out somewhere, take your wife out, and go dancing with her? Then you could be dancing with your wife. That'd be
I'm going to tell you something right now. If you ever watch that show to see what those people learn who are not dancers and the routines they learn and be able to go out in front of a bunch of people and do that, it takes some guts.
You know what, Steve? Steve, synchronized swimmers go through more than that. But I still don't want to watch it because it's still stupid.
Okay, well, it's a free country. I want to say congratulations to you and your high school football team for qualifying to go to the Nationals. Or explain to people what happened here this weekend. You've been coaching a high school football team.
We won.
Of home study students, and they won. And you beat a highly ranked team. And you're ranked number 10 in the country now?
No, we're number 3. Will you get that number
3 in the country? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah.
And you're going to Atlanta to play for the national championship?
Yeah. November the 15th is the national semifinal game. And then the 17th is the national championship game. The one day in between kind of freaks you out. But the other team has to do it also. But yeah, both of my sons play on the team. It is predominantly a homeschooled football team where we do have, I think the rules are you have to have 60% homeschooled kids. We got some kids that come from some public, private high schools also. But yeah, we won our game this last week, 35-12 against a team that was 10-1 going in and ranked higher than us, and they were the number 1 seed. I think they had like 45 or 50 players. I think they may have had more coaches than we had players, but it didn't matter in the end because they still had to drive 2.5 hours back to Elkhart, Indiana with the L. So. What?
Well, congratulations to you. No, that's great. You had to drive 2.5 hours. You came up from Lawrenceburg, Indiana to play.
Well, we drove an
Park
hour.
Tudor High School.
We drove an hour and 40 minutes. And Park Tudor High School is a really nice facility. And let's see, who was it?
Sure.
It's
the richest high school in the city.
Blewett and Farrell both played there.
Yeah.
The thing that blows my mind is when you walk through there and you see that they both wore number 11 is the fact that neither one of them had their jerseys retired.
How about that?
Because they both were pretty dang good. And I think, did Tudor win state championships with both of them?
They may have. I don't know. That's class basketball, so
yeah, I'm
I stopped
sure
following
either.
high school basketball.
Yeah, I stopped in 1997 when they screwed it up.
Yeah, so. It seems to me they did. They had a run where they won. from time to time, but I don't know because I really, truly, when class basketball started in Indiana, I pretty much stopped paying attention to it. I mean, it just got too hard to follow.
Me too.
But I do believe that Park Tudor won some championships at that point in time.
I know they were at least in the conversation. I was pretty sure they won it with Blewett. I just couldn't remember about Farrell or not, though.
Yeah, I don't either. And Yogi was right about the time because I know I coached against him and his parents and his teams in AAU ball with our team. And
so
they were always
how
very
much
good.
money were you getting paid by Adidas for your AAU team?
Not a penny.
Huh.
We weren't an Adidas team. We were just our own little.
That's what I mean. But
master.
I figured that one of them would, want Steve Risley.
We were actually a school team. We actually took all players from one school, which is unheard of in the AAU
I thought that was
world.
illegal to do that. I think you were only allowed to have so many kids from each team.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Oh, you were cheating, Steve. I hate to tell you this, but you were cheating. I hate to be the one to tell you, but I'm pretty sure you're only allowed to have a certain amount of kids from a
We
team.
weren't in high school yet. We quit doing it when they went to high school.
Okay, high school you're not allowed to do it. I'm pretty sure you're
We
not.
didn't do it in high school. We stopped it. This was U13 or U13 when we finished sixth in the country with a school team, which was pretty good. We lost one game by a guy who shot at us at the buzzer and beat us. Otherwise, we'd been playing in the championships. So, and then we lost the third game before the finals, and then we had relegated to play for sixth place, which we won sixth place.
So anyway, that's basically in the quarterfinals.
And you know what? They retired my number at Lawrence Central High School, my basketball jersey. You know why? Because I stole my damn uniform.
I thought maybe they were going to. Well, I just want to know how. This is how this show always ends up. You start off talking about me, and it ends up being stories about Risley. Stories with Steve is what we're going to call the end of the show. It's always got to be about Steve.
The funny part about it is the funny part. I took my uniform, and the next year, I got a phone call from a parent who wanted to know if I'd bring it back because his son wanted to wear my number.
You told him you didn't have it, right?
No, I said no. I don't know where it's at.
You should have said, hey, I brought it to IU and Chuck Franz stole it.
Stole it. There you go.
You'll have to get a hold of him. All right, guys.
And Joey Logano won the NASCAR race yesterday. He's in the finals now. He's earned his way to Miami to play drive for the NASCAR championship. Lewis Hamilton won the world championship in Formula One in Mexico City. Big auto racing day yesterday. I know you don't like those sports. So, all right.
All
right. I gave you your 50. Hey, anybody out there? There's a GoFundMe account for Mike's football team. They need uniforms badly.
And Risley doesn't donate anything. When you go on there, you'll see there's all kind of people that have donated, but Steve Risley's not one of them because he's a tight ass, and his wife told me he was like that too.
I thought I donated. I didn't donate.
Oh, yeah, you thought you donated. All right. The check's probably in the mail, Steve.
No, I don't. How do you do GoFundMe? Tell me how to do it, and I'll go donate.
You do it through, PayPal or something. I don't know. Let's see. I had something else I was going to say. Oh, okay, so we got all the NASCAR, all the auto racing in, right?
Yeah, nothing much else happened in auto racing. IndyCar shut down for the year. Pretty much it. Let me see. Anything else? Tennis, I don't know anything about.
The only thing I could see
World Series bought the Red Sox to win the World Series. We already talked about that, I think, briefly.
That's about as exciting as NASCAR.
Yeah, it was really. I'm glad it's over with.
Yeah. All right.
What do you have else to talk about?
Go ahead. You got something else?
No, wrap it up.
What do you got? And also, I want to send a shout out to Shingzu Zhu, who won the World Ping Pong Championships in Tokyo over the weekend. All right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up. Remember, you can hear us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.